Let me ask you something that almost no one dares to say out loud. What if your struggles with erections aren't actually because of your age, but because of what you're eating? Yes, really. It's not your age, not bad luck, and definitely not just what happens after 60. The real cause is much more urgent and much more within your control. My name is Dr. William Mark. I'm a board-certified urologist with over 3 decades of experience helping men just like you reclaim their strength, confidence, and vitality. Throughout the years, I've met thousands of men, husbands, grandfathers, professionals, retirees, who came to me frustrated, discouraged, and convinced that this part of their life was over. Almost all of them were wrong. Here's the truth that most doctors won't tell you. Erectile dysfunction isn't just a problem in the bedroom. It's a blood flow problem. And the good news? Blood flow is something we can dramatically improve, naturally, by changing what we eat. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that works. We'll uncover the 4 foods that can reignite your performance and the 3 silent saboteurs that may be draining your energy, your drive, and your confidence. And believe me, the last food on the list might be the most powerful and the most surprising of all. These are not theories. These are the exact strategies I've used with my patients, with real results. Stronger erections, higher energy, a renewed sense of power, and not through pills or gimmicks, but through the food you already have in your kitchen. So if you're ready to stop settling for "this is just what happens with age" and start taking back control, stay with me. And if you're serious about your health, go ahead and subscribe and tap the notification bell now. If this message is already speaking to you, type a 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. I want to hear what's missing for you. Alright, let's jump in. The first food on our list isn't exotic or expensive, but it could be the cornerstone of your recovery. Let's get started. 1. Leafy green vegetables. Nature's first aid for men's circulation. Let's start with something simple, yet incredibly powerful: leafy green vegetables. Now I know, greens like spinach, kale, arugula, and beet greens might not get your heart racing like a sizzling steak or a loaded sandwich. But trust me, if you're a man over 60 and you want to reclaim your energy, confidence, and performance, these humble vegetables could be your best allies. Let me tell you about Robert. He's 63, retired from a busy career, relatively active, but had been quietly dealing with weak erections for over a year. No major health red flags, just a growing sense of disappointment and frustration. He said, "Dr. Mark, I feel like I've lost something, and I don't know how to get it back." He had tried over-the-counter pills and supplements, but wasn't seeing lasting results. And more importantly, he didn't want to be dependent on a pill every time he wanted to feel like himself again. After reviewing his habits, I introduced him to something that changed his life: leafy greens. Not a magic pill, not a complex therapy, just food that supports the very system responsible for erections, his cardiovascular system. See, leafy greens are rich in natural nitrates. When your body processes these, it turns them into nitric oxide, a powerful molecule that relaxes and widens your blood vessels. It's like opening up the highway for your blood to flow freely, and where that blood goes, especially down there, makes all the difference. So we made a plan. Spinach in his morning smoothie, arugula salads at lunch, sautéed kale with dinner. Nothing fancy, just consistent, daily choices. And here's the magic part. Within a few weeks, Robert noticed the change. Not just in the bedroom, but in how he felt walking upstairs, how clearly he could think, and how confidently he could look at himself in the mirror again. 3 months later, he told me, "Doc, I feel like I've got my life back." And the reason it worked is simple. Erectile strength isn't just about hormones or desire. It's about blood flow. And leafy greens don't just support blood flow in the moment, they help repair the very lining of your blood vessels. That inner lining, called the endothelium, needs to be flexible and healthy to produce nitric oxide effectively. When it's damaged by years of processed food, smoking, or even just stress, blood flow suffers. But with the right fuel, it can heal. Here's the truth most men don't hear. The foods you put on your plate can either build you up or quietly break you down. And leafy greens are builders. They're healers. They're one of the simplest, most effective tools we have to reverse the damage time and habits have done to our bodies. This isn't theory, it's practice. It's the kind of transformation I've seen over and over again. So if you've been looking for a first step, something small that can spark a big change, let it be this. Add more greens to your meals. Make it a non-negotiable part of your day. Because the road to better erections, better health, and a better life might just start with what's on your fork. And if you're still with me, type the number 1 in the comments. I want to know that you're serious about this journey, because what comes next, it's even more powerful. Let's move forward. 2. Beets, the unsuspecting root that restores performance. When I first mention beets to my patients, I often get a raised eyebrow or a hesitant smile. Beets, doc, they say. Aren't those for salads and Sunday dinners? And I get it. Beets aren't flashy. They don't scream masculinity or strength. But if you're serious about getting your blood flowing again, really flowing, then this earthy root vegetable deserves your full attention. Let me introduce you to George. 68 years old, a retired school principal with a sharp mind and a big heart. He wasn't struggling with complete dysfunction, but things had become inconsistent. He described it as a fading signal, a loss of momentum. He said, "Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm tired of guessing which it'll be." I suggested he start drinking beet juice each morning. Just a small glass. Nothing else in his routine had to change, yet. 2 weeks later, he walked into my office with a smirk and said, "Doc, whatever's in that red juice, keep it coming." My wife even noticed. We laughed, but underneath the joke was a sense of real relief. His body was waking up. He felt more in control, less anxious, and more connected to his vitality. Here's why beets work so well. They're loaded with natural nitrates, even more than leafy greens. And when those nitrates are converted into nitric oxide, blood vessels expand, oxygen flows, blood pressure lowers, and circulation improves right where it needs to. Beets don't just support the function of your heart. They support the stamina and reliability of your erections. But the benefits go beyond the bedroom. I often recommend beets to endurance athletes for a reason. Improved blood flow means more energy, more oxygen to your muscles, and better recovery. If it helps them cross finish lines, it can help you perform where it matters most. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. George added beet juice to his mornings, roasted beets to his salads, even tried them raw in smoothies. No complicated diet, no medications. Just one powerful habit that gave his body what it needed to perform again, and the science backs it up. Better nitric oxide levels, improved endothelial function, and yes, stronger, more dependable erections. So if you've been wondering if your body still has what it takes, I want you to remember this. Beets don't just support circulation. They restore confidence. They remind your system how to function at full capacity. And best of all, they're easy, they're natural, and they're waiting for you right now. If this is starting to click, if you're seeing how simple changes lead to real results, drop a number 1 in the comments. Let me know you're on board, because next, we're diving into a food that builds the foundation one handful at a time. Let's keep going. 3. Nuts, small bites, big results for blood flow and hormones. Let's talk about something that might already be sitting in your kitchen cabinet. Simple, humble, often overlooked, nuts, especially walnuts and pistachios. These aren't just snacks. For men over 60, they can be your secret weapon to restoring vitality, improving blood flow, and even supporting your hormones. One of my longtime patients, Frank, a 66-year-old retired firefighter, came to me with a familiar frustration. He wasn't dealing with complete dysfunction, but things had started to feel weaker, less predictable. "I don't need to be 25 again," he said. "I just want to feel like myself." That sentence stuck with me because that's what most men are really asking for. Not perfection, just consistency. I suggested something simple, a daily handful of walnuts and pistachios. Nothing extreme, no supplements or complex routines, just this small addition to his existing diet. What most men don't know is that these nuts are packed with an amino acid called L-arginine. That's the raw material your body uses to produce nitric oxide, the same molecule that opens up your blood vessels and improves circulation. But there's more. Nuts are also rich in healthy fats that support testosterone production, reduce inflammation, and protect your cardiovascular system. Frank started tossing pistachios into his afternoon snack, added crushed walnuts to his oatmeal, and kept a jar nearby whenever he felt the urge to munch. 1 month later, he came back smiling. "Doc, it's subtle, but I feel stronger, not just in bed, but all around." That's the beauty of food-based healing. It doesn't just target one part of you, it supports your whole system. Better blood flow means better erections. Higher testosterone means more energy, more drive. And improved cardiovascular health means you're not just functioning, you're thriving. And this isn't wishful thinking. It's backed by real science. Studies show that men who consume nuts regularly report better sexual function, higher libido, and even improved satisfaction with their intimate lives. Not because they're trying harder, but because their body is working with them again. And here's the best part. There's no prep, no cooking, just grab a handful. Consistency over complexity. That's what creates lasting change. So if you're looking for one of the easiest, most enjoyable ways to start feeling like yourself again, don't underestimate the power of what's already in your pantry. The next time you reach for a snack, make it something that supports your goals, not something that pulls you further away. And if you've made it this far, and you're starting to believe that change is possible, let me know in the comments. Type a number 1 if you're with me. Because next up, we're diving into one of the sweetest, most delicious ways to keep your arteries clear and your performance sharp. You won't want to miss it. 4. Berries, the sweet, silent heroes of circulation and confidence. There's something surprisingly powerful about the smallest, most colorful foods we often overlook. Berries, especially blueberries and strawberries, might seem like harmless additions to your breakfast bowl, but they carry a quiet strength that can transform your sexual health from the inside out. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. One patient, Henry, 71 years old and recently widowed, came to see me a few months after he'd started dating again. His health was generally good, but he'd noticed something different. He wasn't as firm or as responsive as he used to be. He told me, "Doc, I never thought I'd be having this conversation at this age, but I want to be ready when the moment comes." There was no shame in his voice, just hope, a desire to feel confident again. Henry's story is one I hear often. The problem wasn't glaring. His blood pressure was fine, cholesterol under control, and he was still active. But there was a quiet erosion happening inside his body, microscopic damage to the endothelium, the thin lining of his blood vessels. That lining is what allows blood to flow freely, smoothly, and efficiently. When it becomes inflamed or compromised, performance suffers, even when everything else seems okay. That's where berries step in. Blueberries, strawberries, and their bright, sweet cousins are rich in compounds called flavonoids, especially anthocyanins. These are the natural pigments that give berries their vibrant color. But they're more than just decoration. Flavonoids work at a cellular level to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, two of the biggest enemies of healthy circulation. What's more, these compounds help stimulate the production of nitric oxide, the same miracle molecule we've talked about with beets and greens. More nitric oxide means more flexibility in the arteries, better blood flow, and more reliable erections. But beyond the science, the real proof is in the experience. Henry followed my advice. He started each morning with a bowl of mixed berries, some fresh, some frozen. He added them to smoothies, stirred them into oatmeal, and even enjoyed them as a light dessert after dinner. 6 weeks later, he walked into my office with a quiet smile and said, "Let's just say I'm glad I asked for help." It wasn't just the performance, it was the confidence. The feeling of being alive again. Berries don't require fancy recipes or special preparation. They're nature's fast food, nutrient-packed, delicious, and ready to go. And their impact goes far beyond the bedroom. They help stabilize blood sugar, reduce belly fat, and support heart and brain health. They're one of the simplest, most affordable ways to protect your manhood and extend your quality of life. So if you're looking for a small, delicious change that could make a big impact, start with berries. Toss them in your cereal, blend them into a shake, or snack on them at night instead of reaching for something processed. The benefits aren't just backed by science. They're felt in the quiet moments of renewed intimacy, stronger connection, and deeper satisfaction. You deserve to feel that again. You deserve to experience what it's like when your body is working with you instead of against you. And it can start with something as simple as a handful of blueberries. But as powerful as berries are, there's another side to the story. Because while some foods heal, others quietly harm. And in the next part, we're going to uncover the 3 hidden foods that could be sabotaging everything without you even realizing it. 5. Processed meats. The hidden culprit quietly robbing you of vitality. For many men, processed meats feel like part of who they are. Bacon with breakfast, deli sandwiches for lunch, pepperoni on pizza. These foods are nostalgic, comforting, even tied to memories of growing up. But there's something you need to know, and it's not meant to scare you, but to empower you. Those very same foods may be slowly shutting down your body's ability to perform. Let me introduce you to Jerry. He's 64, sharp-witted, proud of his routine, and not someone who usually runs to the doctor. But when his erections began to lose firmness and consistency, he knew something wasn't right. He wasn't overweight, he wasn't diabetic, and he even walked regularly. On the surface, he was doing okay. But a deeper look told a different story. Jerry's diet, packed with bacon, sausage, and cold cuts, was quietly damaging his blood vessels. These processed meats are loaded with saturated fats, sodium, and chemical preservatives. They clog the arteries, increase inflammation, and weaken the endothelial lining, the delicate tissue that keeps blood vessels healthy and open. And the arteries that fuel your erection are some of the smallest and most sensitive in your body. They're the first to be affected when blood flow begins to slow. When blood can't flow properly, it doesn't matter how much desire you feel. Your body simply can't respond. That's exactly what was happening to Jerry. I explained that every slice of bacon, every processed sausage, was like throwing sand into the gears of his most important systems. He agreed to cut processed meats for just 1 month. It wasn't easy. These foods had been a staple in his life, but he swapped bacon for avocado, replaced deli meats with grilled chicken, and started adding more whole foods into his meals. 3 weeks in, he called my office. His voice was different, lighter, more energized. "Doc," he said, "it's working. My mornings feel different. My confidence is back." Even my wife noticed. That moment wasn't just about erections. It was about hope, self-esteem, and taking control. The truth is, cutting processed meats isn't just about improving performance. It's about preventing serious health issues down the road. The same arterial damage that blocks blood flow to the penis can also lead to heart disease, stroke, and cognitive decline. When you choose whole, unprocessed foods, you're not just fixing one problem. You're setting the foundation for lifelong health. And here's the beauty of it. Your body responds fast. Endothelial function begins to improve within days of making better choices. Nitric oxide production increases. Inflammation drops. You start feeling lighter, clearer, and yes, stronger. Just like Jerry did. So if you're still holding on to the idea that your favorite processed meats are harmless, I urge you to reconsider. You're not just choosing taste. You're choosing how well your blood flows, how much energy you have, how you connect with your partner, and how you feel about yourself every single day. And that's a choice worth making wisely. 6. Refined carbs. The sweet deception draining your energy and erection power. It's easy to overlook refined carbs. They're not fried, they're not greasy, they even sound harmless. Toast, white rice, pasta, a cookie or two. But for men over 60, these everyday staples can quietly sabotage your body in ways that are far more destructive than you might think. And the worst part? They often go completely unnoticed. Take Thomas, for example. He was 69, active and thoughtful about his health, or so he believed. He came to my office because something just felt off. His energy was low, his clarity had faded, and most of all, intimacy was becoming more frustrating than fulfilling. His body simply wasn't responding the way it used to. He assumed it was just part of getting older. But when we looked at his meals, the picture became clear. Toast and jam for breakfast. White pasta with butter and cheese for dinner. A sweet treat before bed. Nothing outrageous, just typical comfort food. But that comfort was costing him his vitality. Refined carbs like white bread, pastries, and sugary snacks break down into glucose almost immediately. That surge in blood sugar triggers a spike in insulin, which over time leads to insulin resistance, belly fat accumulation, hormonal imbalance, and inflammation. It's a deadly chain reaction for a man's sex life. Why? Because all of these factors directly impact blood flow, nitric oxide production, and testosterone levels. And that's what was happening to Thomas. His insulin resistance was slowly dampening his body's ability to circulate blood properly and produce the hormones he needed to feel alive and responsive. He wasn't broken. He was just out of sync with what his body needed. I asked him to try something different for 3 weeks. Whole grains instead of white bread, sweet potatoes instead of white rice, fresh berries instead of cookies. Nothing extreme, just real food full of fiber, nutrients, and stable energy. When he came back, he looked brighter. "Doc," he said, "I didn't know food could do this much." His eyes had that light again. The hesitation in his voice was gone. And when we talked about intimacy, he simply smiled and said, "Let's just say it's back." This is what most men don't realize. Refined carbs might taste like comfort, but they leave your body in chaos. They create blood sugar highs and crashes, they wear down your circulation, they mess with your hormones, and they can make you feel old before your time. But just like Thomas, you can turn it around. The body is remarkably forgiving. When you give it steady, natural fuel, it responds with clarity, energy, and strength. You don't need to go keto. You don't need to cut every carb. You just need to choose the kind of carbs that heal instead of harm. If you've been eating like Thomas and wondering why your body doesn't feel the way it used to, this could be your wake-up call. Not to give up your favorite meals, but to give your body a better foundation. Because the next time you reach for that bread or pasta, you're not just feeding your hunger. You're feeding, or starving, your vitality. 7. Fried foods and fast food. The greasy habit that silently shuts you down. You know that feeling after a drive-through meal? Heavy, tired, maybe even a little guilty? What you may not realize is that feeling isn't just in your gut. It's in your arteries. It's in your blood flow. And yes, it's in your bedroom too. Fried foods and fast food may be the ultimate comfort on a stressful day, but for men over 60, they could also be the ultimate performance killer. Let me tell you about Alan. A 62-year-old former truck driver, Alan spent years on the road. His meals came in paper bags, his snacks were from gas stations, and his routine was wrapped in fast food. He came to me not because of one big issue, but because of a slow fade. Less energy, more fatigue, And that quiet frustration men rarely talk about when intimacy stops feeling natural. His erections were inconsistent, his mood was low, and his body just didn't feel like his anymore. We ran some tests. His cholesterol was high, his arteries were under pressure, his testosterone levels were lower than expected. The culprit? His diet. Fried foods like chicken, French fries, and onion rings, and fast food meals packed with trans fats and processed oils were clogging his blood vessels from the inside out. These foods are engineered to be addictive. They light up the brain's reward centers and deliver an instant feeling of fullness. But that satisfaction comes with a price. Trans fats and oxidized oils inflame the body, damage the endothelium, the delicate lining of your arteries, and block the nitric oxide production essential for firm, lasting erections. It's like trying to pump water through a clogged hose. There's just no pressure. I asked Alan to try something different for 30 days. No more fried food, no more drive-through dinners. Instead, he cooked simple meals at home, used olive oil instead of processed oils, and baked or grilled his proteins. Within 3 weeks, everything began to shift. He had more energy. He felt lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. And when we talked about performance, he gave a knowing smile. "Doc," he said, "let's just say things are moving again." And that's what most men don't know. The fast food you've come to rely on for comfort might be the very thing cutting off your blood flow, your hormones, and your confidence. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, silently, until one day you wonder why you just don't feel like yourself anymore. But the good news is, the damage isn't final. When you stop flooding your body with toxins and give it clean, nourishing food, your arteries respond, your circulation improves, your energy returns, and your body remembers what it was built to do. This isn't about never having another burger. It's about knowing the cost of habits and making the kind of choices that support the man you want to be. Not just now, but in the years to come. Because every greasy bite might feel good in the moment, but what it takes away could be far more valuable. If you've made it to this point, then you already know more than most men ever will about the real roots of performance, energy, and vitality after 60. You've seen the connection between what's on your plate and what's possible in your life. And hopefully, you've started to see that this isn't about giving things up. It's about taking something back. We started with the myth that aging is the enemy, that the decline in sexual health, confidence, and energy is inevitable. But you've learned the truth. Erections are about blood flow, and blood flow is about what you eat, how you move, and the choices you make every day. You now understand the foods that can change everything. Leafy greens that open your arteries, beets that supercharge your nitric oxide, nuts that build hormones and circulation, and berries that protect your blood vessels and help you feel youthful again. You've seen the stories. Real men, real changes, and real hope. And you've uncovered the silent saboteurs. Processed meats that clog your arteries, refined carbs that spike your blood sugar and shut down your hormones, and fried foods that poison your circulation from the inside out. You've met Alan, Jerry, Thomas, men just like you, who made small changes and got big results. They didn't buy a miracle cure. They didn't turn their lives upside down. They just made better choices, one meal at a time. That's your next step. Not perfection, but intention. Not restriction, but transformation. Start with one meal, one swap, one walk, one decision to treat your body like it matters, because it does. More than you realize. This isn't just about stronger erections. It's about feeling alive again, about waking up with energy, about looking in the mirror and seeing a man who didn't give up, who chose to reclaim what time tried to take. It's about being present with your partner, feeling connected, proud, and powerful in your own skin. So here's what I ask you now. Don't let this be just another video. Let this be the turning point. Let this message plant a seed that grows into something stronger. Comment below. What part of this hit home for you? Share this with a man who needs to hear it. And if you're ready for more, subscribe, because I'm not done helping you yet. This journey isn't over. It's just beginning. And I promise, if you walk it with purpose, what's ahead will be more satisfying, more connected, and more powerful than you ever thought possible. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're just one choice away from a new chapter. Let it begin today.